The second reading, Paul spoke about different gifts that come from the same Spirit, and the fact that to each the Spirit is given for the benefit of the common good. There is an old Jewish Christian tradition which says, God sends each person into this world with a special message to deliver, with a special song to sing for others, with an act of love to bestow. No one else can speak my message or sing my song or offer my act of love. These are entrusted only to me. According to this tradition, the message must be spoken, the song sung, the act of love delivered only to a few, or to all the folks in a small town, or to all the people in a large city, or even to all those in the whole world. It all depends on God's unique plan for each person. To which we might add, the greatest gift of God, one would think, is the gift of life. The greatest sin of humans, it would seem, would be to return that gift, ungrateful and unopened. It's kind of nice, it's kind of reassuring, I guess, that we're being told that the Holy Spirit accepts us enough that the Spirit works with each of us in our individuality. But there's also something in that that says that we can't beg off and say, no, building the kingdom, I don't think that's for me. No, Spirit says, yes, it is. Maybe you just have to look in different ways. I came up with a bunch of things to share with you, and I'm not going to read them all, but I've got one article here that a priest of the Paulist order wrote several years ago. And I love the title. It says, "Come, Holy Spirit." All right, everybody duck. A lot of wisdom in that. He starts off, I said it once and I'll say it again, I have not experienced the Holy Spirit as a calm, gentle breeze. For every moment of stillness and centered tranquility I've experienced with the Lord in prayer, I've had 40 moments of being bopped around by the Spirit like a party balloon. Do we really want to be so casual and so clueless in saying over and over again, as we have already at this Mass, and as we will many more times, come, Holy Spirit? Are we sure that's what we want? Are we sure we're ready for that? Because this Spirit is not meant to gently nudge us along. It's not what happened with the apostles. We heard in the first reading. And by the way, thank you for taking on the first reading. Every other lector that's in here, as you were struggling through the Medes and the Persian, the Elamites, blah, 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 every other lector that was in here was thinking, better you than me. So, thank you for doing that. But the Spirit came as a driving wind, as fire, not a fire to gently light up the place, give it a nice romantic glow. Nothing against you engaged couples. But a fire that changed them completely. The Spirit came as a dove, came as a driving wind, came as fire. That Spirit can come in any number of ways. But the thing is, however the Spirit comes, the goal of the Spirit is to move us along. There were two brothers, Eric and David, living on adjoining farms, who developed a bitter conflict. It was their first serious rift in 40 years of farming side by side, sharing machinery and trading labor and goods as needed. They had never had a quarrel, that is, until now. It began with a small misunderstanding that grew into a major difference and finally exploded into a bitter exchange of words, followed by separation and silence. Maybe many of you can picture that type of a scenario from your own life. One morning, there was a knock on the back door of the elder brother Eric's house. He opened it to find a man with a carpenter's toolbox standing on the stoop. "I'm looking for a few days' work," said the itinerant carpenter. "Perhaps you might have some small jobs?" "Well, I believe I do," Eric said. "Look across the creek at that farm. That's my neighbor. In fact, it's my younger brother's place. Last week, there was a meadow between our farms. That is, until he took a bulldozer and punched a hole in the river levee. Now there's this creek between us. Well, he may have done this to spite me, but I'll go him one better. See that pile of lumber over there by the barn? I want you to build me a fence, an 8-foot tall fence, so I won't have to look at his place no more. Okay?" "I think I understand the situation," replied the carpenter. "Show me to your tool shed, and I'll do you a job that will please you." Eric was going to the town for supplies, so he helped the carpenter get the materials ready and headed off for the day. The carpenter toiled all day, measuring, sawing, pounding nails. Around sunset, the farmer returned home, just as the carpenter was finishing up. The farmer stood aghast. His jaw dropped. There was no fence, but a bridge. A bridge now spanned the creek. It was a terrific piece of woodworking, too, handrails and all. And to Eric's amazement, across the bridge came his younger brother, arms outstretched. "You are quite a craftsman and a brother," said David, "to have built this bridge after all I said." The two brothers met in the middle of the bridge and warmly embraced one another. As they turned, they saw the carpenter packing up his tools. "No, wait," both brothers shouted. "Stay on a bit longer. We have some other projects to discuss with you." Carpenter replied, "Thanks, but I must be moving on. You see, I have many other bridges that need building." The Spirit will take us to new life if we are willing to go there. And that can be a big if. For some of us, the Spirit might be calling us to a place of reconciliation or forgiveness that we've been avoiding. For others, the Spirit wants to take us to a place of decision that we've been afraid of making. For others, the Spirit might be taking us to holy ground of new depth in our relationships. But we're tempted to chicken out and to hold back. Maybe the fire of the Spirit is wanting to burn in your heart so that you will have the courage and the trust to admit to your addiction, your problem, and seek the help that you've been avoiding. Deal with the problem that you have been denying. Come, Holy Spirit. If we say it, we got to be ready to mean it. And renew the face of the earth. Hello, church. In England, from the 15th to the 17th century, the color red was considered to have healing properties. Patients suffering from a fever were dressed in red nightgowns, and their rooms were filled with red-colored objects. So, here we are, red spangled and all. Could it be that this is a sign that the church is sick? Regardless of the age, the community that Jesus left to continue his work of proclaiming the good news always seems to suffer from some sicknesses. Religious institutions suffer from motion sickness and resist forward movement and change, like paralyzed patients pleading with their physical therapist to stay just where they are. Churches of all faiths also suffer homesickness, the disease of nostalgia. The older the church, the more it seems to suffer longing for the good old days. In my 40 years as a priest, the driving force between so much of what I have tried to do and so much of what I have tried to say has been to keep the renewal of the church moving forward. I've got a quote somewhere in my list of quotes. Notice, it doesn't say, "Come, Holy Spirit, and re-old the face of the earth." Renew. Make us new. Make us more in your image. Let your fire burn in us. that we might renew the face of the earth, that we might have a true impact on the injustice in the world, that those who are left out will truly know that they are children of God, that they have dignity, honor, and the promise of resurrection, as we all do. That's where the Spirit wants to take us. That's where maybe we'll let ourselves be led just a little bit more. Come, Holy Spirit. All right. Everybody duck.